So another module, another day, and we're going to do another destination. So from that experiential perspective, I thought I would do one a little bit closer to home. I live in Cambridgeshire, and somewhere that I've gone both as a child with family and an adult with family and adult more independently has been Norfolk. It's about a 2 hour drive, I think, depending where in Norfolk. There's lots of beautiful coast and really lovely nature areas. Obviously, comparing it to America and Australia, there's maybe not so much of different cultural changes, although, even within different regions in the United Kingdoms, there are different dialects and different history and museums. And so there was still a lot when I've gone to Norfolk that I really enjoy learning about and experiencing. But I think one of the points for this was to say it doesn't always have to be the other side of the world or a long, long trip or even a flight. I know that for some people flying is challenging or a bit worrying. And so while I would always encourage people to, face those fears and that it can be possible to fly, you might be in a position that the first trip you're looking to do is in your home country, and that's absolutely fine as well. And so I think Norfolk represents that general sentiment. So obviously now we're looking at the booking, the actual accommodation. So you'll have got your shortlist from the last module, and hopefully you're feeling a bit more clear on, you've got excited where you're going from earlier in the course, and you've thought about your needs, and then you've got this short list of those top accommodations that you're keen to pursue. So now is the time to reach out to them. And, while the information that you found should be reliable, I always think it's a good thing to double check with the providers before you actually book it. So whenever I've gone to Norfolk, I've definitely used some of I say tools, I mean, they're kind of companies, they're kind of websites as well, but ultimately the booking.com, the hotel.com, Airbnb, obviously other providers are available. I've got no affiliation to any of them, but they're the sort of top three that I would tend to use. So that would obviously be, having done that on the previous module, there can be a way to contact them through those websites. But often what I do is the ones that I've got on the shortlist, I go to Google, I Google the accommodation name, like the cottage or whatever it might be. I have a little look on the website just to see if there's any accessibility information. But most of all, at this point, we want to speak to them. So I would go to the contact page. Now, this next bit will depend a bit on your preferences. Some people like to pick up the phone and have a nice chat with someone on reception, or the owner that owns the cottage, or the agency that runs the cottage. And to say cottage, it could be another form of accommodation, but generally for me it's often been a kind of seaside cottage. Other people prefer to send an email. Similarly, people do the contact form on the website. So there's a little bit about your personal style. Do you prefer to speak and then obviously have that live interaction, or do you prefer to sort of compose and write what you want to say? Obviously, we'll get into a bit more later in this module what you're going to say, but there's an element here just to consider of whether you want to pick up the phone or send a message. And then, from that point, so for me, it can be both, but I probably lean more into sending the email or the message through the contact form. So at that point, I know what my needs are. I know that roughly what they've said they have available on their criteria, but I might have a question that I wasn't quite sure about on the filters, or they might not have mentioned something at all that I'm keen to double check. So for me, that would be, can you really confirm, like triple confirm, there's no steps in the place? Can you please, let me know that there's absolutely no barriers into the shower? Quite often I need to know there's room under the bed. And again, this might come back to you, is it a non-negotiable or is it a nice to have? But, if having the room under the bed for the hoist is a non-negotiable, you're definitely going to want to find that out before you book. And so, all the different places in Norfolk had all sorts of different variables. Some had the sea view, but were not actually very good when it came to the specifics of my non-negotiables. But then on the other hand, there might have been a really accessible place, but it was far from the beach. And so it's sort of weighing up all those different things. But as I say, we'll get into the step-by-step stuff shortly with the email template or the script if you're going to phone someone. But for me with Norfolk, it's always been that 2-hour trip. I can take a lot of what I need in the car, such as my own hoist, rather than renting it there. And then, it's just always been about having that fish and chips on the beach and that smell of the sea and just, getting away from home and having that little bit of a break from the routine and the work stuff and the general life stuff. So, that's what Norfolk is for me. And let's get cracking now into the step-by-step guides for you.